I love Mike Hanson Archives.
Get ready to run, folks. It's Mike Hanson here, and I like that painting that was done in 1962 of the Come and Take It, and it's a beautiful painting. If you ever want to see that in person, it's at 3307 Highway 90 East Alternate in Gonzales, Texas, at the Independence Motel here. It's in the lobby. That is so beautiful. Well, today I'm here to talk to you about an interview that I found recently that I did in 2000 with Cathrine Matteson. She was one of the oldest Branch Davidians, and she died in, I think she died in 2010. It should be on this videotape. But I found it and I wanted to put it up unedited for y'all to see, especially for Branch Davidians that are still living and Branch Davidian children that came out 27 years ago, because it really tells you what your elders believed. And once again, if you want to subscribe there, down at the button down there, to Mike Hanson Archives, Hanson Archives, Hanson Archives, or Waco Archives, and our newest one, Trailer Park Show Archives. So I have 4 YouTube channels, and I'd appreciate y'all subscribing to all of them. And we are putting up all the 25-year-old VHS tapes. We figured out one time that between Alex Jones, Jeff Davis, and a bunch of these other Patriots like Bob Dacey and George Humphrey and Steve Lane and Jimmy Ritter and all this, that I've done over 25, I'm live on the air, 2,200 live shows. So we're trying to get all those put up on YouTube right now. And if you would like to help with that, send us $25 and I'll send you a signed copy of my new book. And the address to send that is, hopefully she'll put it up right now, 901 St. Joseph Street. And that's in Gonzales, Texas, 78629. Okay, here is Cathrine Matteson. I met Cathrine Matteson when she moved to Austin in 1995 to live with Wyla, and we did get her on a couple of shows down here. I got those up on Mike Hanson Archives. But this is a never seen interview with Cathrine Matteson, and I'm going to, you'll see her getting ready and all this stuff. I'm gonna run it for y'all unedited, because I think she has such a good personality and everything. I want y'all to see she really cared about people and the other Branch Davidians, and she's just basically a damn good person. And they were treated so bad by the media and the government. I'm glad we had the chance to rebuild the church for them, and just to get to be with them for 7 months up there in Waco was really great. And here it is, folks. Cathrine Matteson. She's passed away now, but she lives on in this video from the year 2000. Thanks a lot, and God bless. Be sure to help support us. Send us $25 to that address, and we'll send you a signed copy of this book. And we can do a lot of money with a lot of good with $25 that will at least get one more videotape up for history, and that's what we're trying to do. We got all these thousands of tapes to get put up. Hopefully I'll live long enough to see it happen. Thanks a lot, and God bless. And here's Cathrine Matteson.
There goes flop.
And speak up real good too. Where do you want to stand?
I can stand right here.
All right. Well, I don't like that mirror. It looks right here in front of all these eagles are good. You know, just tell what you want to tell the people. You know, like you
Oh,
did.
wait a minute, let me think. I want to say.
Let me see. Let me see. I don't know if I want that on there.
What's that?
It's backlighting's hitting you. Hold on. Yeah, you look good right there.
Let me see.
Well, let me just ask you some questions, and then you can just
First
fill
of
in.
all, I want to thank everybody. Is that what you want me to
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you
basically,
for
because you hadn't seen anybody since the,
No, I haven't.
you know.
You want me to give my name and stuff?
Yeah, who you are, and the people know who you are, though.
Yeah, I know it.
I edit real good.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
I'm Cathrine Matteson, and I especially want to thank everyone who contributed to the building out on Mount Carmel. I haven't gotten to send everyone a thank you note. The rate I'm going, I may never. But I do thank you, and I am very appreciative of what you've all done. I know that it never would have even started with all you people that came in and took over and made it work. I also want to talk about the trial. They had 5 people for the so-called jury. Now, you know a jury is going to be 12, or it isn't a jury. This was just a scene like for a movie when somebody is trying to prove something. What happened was they would not allow us to say anything. The minute we'd start to say something that would show them up, everybody would run up to the judge and the judge would stop it. Of course, he had made his mind up a long time ago. He made his mind up before he ever started to be judge at our courtrooms. And he had decided what he's going to do. Of course, he did not give his verdict. He has postponed it. He doesn't want too much publicity in certain ways. But everybody knows what he's like. He is for the government, and he certainly is not for us. I noticed that when I went in and listened that they had men prepared to prove that we had done the first shooting, which was a lie. I saw the first shots, and they came from the helicopters, and they tried to say there was no helicopters that had done any shooting. Well, I saw them, and I heard them, and they almost sounded like they were in my room. And they were trying to kill David. That's what they were trying to do, because that's how his room gets so full of holes. They wanted us all to be done away with, but there was no way they could do it. They tried, but it just did not succeed. When the trial was on and just before it was finished, the lawyers told us there was papers going to be flying around. In other words, we were going to be back in jail. But they never did that either, because there were too many people that were against them and for us. It takes the people to help put things straight. When a people does not stand up for the right, the enemies take over. And that's what had happened at Mount Carmel. But they are more cautious now. They do not want anyone to group to get upset. The one thing that the New World Order, the reason why it's taken so long for them to get to where they are, is because they've been very stealthful. They have slowly and surely penetrated different areas, done different things to control, but they never have come out and in full force. They're beginning to do that now because they feel that the people are not going to fight. Well, I don't think it's time for guns. That time is coming, but it isn't now. But to stand up and be heard, to stand up and tell the truth, to stand up to educate other people what has happened, that's what we should be doing now. That's what I try to do. When I get a call from all over the country, when they're telling me that I owe a certain amount of money, I always end up telling them about Mount Carmel. And they're amazed. They don't even know it happened. Well, it's our job, the people that know the truth, to get it out. And of course, you know, people say, well, you haven't got the title. We don't need a title. We are entitled to that land. That land belongs to us, and they know it. I know when I see certain sheriffs, they know I belong there. They know that I've lived on that land for over 30 years. They're not going to try to fight me. But, wait a minute.
I'll edit.
Let me catch a breath.
I'll edit. I got questions for you too.
Okay.
Well, my question won't be, I mean, my voice won't be on here, but your answer.
That's all right.
A lot of people want to know what, since the dedication, how y'all been using the church, and if y'all are having services out there and all this. Say that.
Well, our job right now isn't to try to get in many people to come to church. Our job is to get ourselves in line so that when David comes, we will be ready for that. Then our church will be used to its full extent. We do have people that come in and sit down with us. Few, not many, but I don't expect many now. It isn't time for them. You must realize there are times for everybody. A different time for different people. And if you read what Solomon said, you'll know. There's a time for everything. And when David comes back, which he will, then it will be time for going after the ones that have been hurting the truth and hurting the people who want to understand the truth. There are many people caught up in the one world government, I am sure, that want to get out of it. And they can't. Once you're in, they have you there solid. So I'm not concerned about who is for us or who is against us. I sure appreciate all the people I know, especially the ones in Austin, the different ones around the country that I met, that I never would have met if that church had never been built. But we will finally all get together. And, you know, people think now's the time to get a gun and shoot somebody. No. You have to have a leader in order to do a job correctly. If everybody goes and does their own thing, it's chaos. And that's what Babylon is. You know yourself that the people that were supposedly running the show at Mount Carmel when it was being attacked, the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. And that's an absolute fact. But anyway, I do want to thank everybody for all the help and all the support. You don't know how much that means, because this place, Waco, the people are not, I'm not talking about everybody, because I've met many people who are for us and thought it was the worst thing in the world that ever happened. But the moneyed people here who are in control, they don't want anybody here that is against them. They want to get rid of them, but they have to be careful right now. And I'm thankful for that, because someday we won't have to be careful. I will go after them.
Another question for you, Catherine. There's a lot of things going around, not on any of our shows, and my voice won't be on here, so just, you have to kind of answer the question where the people know what you're talking about. But there's other shows on the same ACTV that we're on that are now saying that y'all committed suicide and that you tortured the kids and all this. Can you respond to that and please clear that up for us, because we want to make sure that's cleared up.
Okay.
Dan Forrest come out and has kind of said that.
Well, many people have picked up what Mark Grove started. And Mark Grove started that in Australia. He got a group of people together there that had been part of our group. And he started to tell a story about how we were torturing the children and how we were abusing them and how we were sacrificing them. And all. Many of the people stood up and said, that isn't true, because they knew us, they had been here. That is not true. But out of the group that started, there was 8 people left. And those 8 people, with Mark Grove, wrote letters to our ambassador in Australia and told all these stories that were untrue. And those were sent to the United States, Britain, all the places where there were people from that country. And I often wondered why Britain did not stand up for their people. A third of our people were from Great Britain, but they did not stand up for them. A third of our people were black, and no blacks stood up for them, which is very unusual. You know that. And the problem was they had sent all these terrible stories around to these different groups so they would not stand up for us. But then, of course, when they start to find out the truth, then they change. But there were no children sacrificed because, or abused. Joyce came in. She was the lady that came in to check them out for the government. And I talked with her. And she said, you know, she said, your children are very smart. She said they answered every question. They are very polite. And she said, I have checked every one of them. There is no abuse. She said, I could not find any kind of abuse. Now, I was glad that I had the opportunity to talk to her, because she was the one that went back and gave the report. And she gave the right report. But what happened, they would not let that report out. But it did come out at 10:30 one morning when they were talking. They had it set up for the media, but nobody ever picked it up.
So how would you respond to these reports that are now circulating again? And believe me, they're circulating again that David Koresh was raping young girls and all this. Please tell them that you knew him, and clear that up for him, Cathrine.
Now, I knew David when he was Vernon. Vernon came in 81. He was a young man, and in fact, he stayed at Mount Carmel, and he would come into the big house and he would take a shower because the house he had, the shower wasn't working. And I used to get after him because, like all young men, he'd take his shoes off and throw them in the kitchen or wherever they happened to land, in their socks, and and I used to get after him and say, put them in the laundry so I won't fall down and break my neck. David never did one thing that God did not tell him to do. David never did anything of himself. Now, I know that for an absolute fact. I lived there, and I was in the same house with him for years. I talked with him extensively before he became David and after he became David. There was none of this things that they talked about. That is ridiculous. God says rape is murder. He would not let anyone that is connected with him do anything like that. So you can forget all the rotten stories you've heard. Everything you have heard before was brought out by Mark Breaux, who was trying to usurp David out of the position he had and take it over, but he didn't have the ability. He tried it one time. David was gone, and he tried to take over. He tried to sound like David. He tried to have the same format as David, and he fell flat on his face. I mean, I just got disgusted with him because he was not David. He did not understand what David understood. He was just out to be the leader, the one in charge. Well, it turned out to be a nothing. He's in Australia now. He did marry that girl that he wanted to marry, and I hope they're happy.
How many people were in Mount Carmel when they attacked it?
I had it figured out there was more than 80. There was more than that. There was one time when we had 150 there. So I can't say for sure. I know it could be in the 90s.
And you lived at Mount Carmel over 30 years.
Yes, I did. I lived there when Ben Roden was the leader. I worked with Lois Roden for 15, 20 years, where we worked together and traveled together all over the United States, and went to Israel and to, trying to think of the name of it, on the other side.
I'll cut this out, Catherine. Don't worry about it.
I'm trying to think of the name of it. The island over there. Oh, I can't even think of it. Anyway.
Well, let me ask you some more questions, because I'll edit it real good for you.
Okay.
And put it on I'll send you a copy of the tape.
Okay.
They're starting to come out with the same old story that David Koresh gave the order to light the fires, and they even got a tape of this supposedly. Can you counter this somehow? But ask the question. I mean, answer the question with my question.
You know, it's laughable what they try to do. I remember one morning David came downstairs. When he'd come down lots of times in the morning, it was and tell us something. It was because God had given him something to tell us. And he told us, he said, God told me I was not to commit suicide for any reason. We are not to commit suicide for any reason. And I know that anyone is stupid who's going to burn themselves when they could take a gun or something else and put them out of their misery. If they really wanted to commit suicide, that is not the way to do it. That's not the smart way to commit suicide. To burn yourself, that is very, very hard to live with. No, he never said he never said light a fire for that reason. He never said. Now, we did have a large, what do you call them, where we used to light it for heat? It was a great big thing, about this big. We had two
heaters?
No, it was something else that we used for heat. It was huge, and it used to have gasoline or some kind of liquid in it.
Yeah, because they're saying they found these gasoline cans and all this kind of stuff.
Gasoline cans, because we had propane lights. We had them from the time we were over in Palestine. I used to have 3 of them myself.
So that wouldn't be strange to you for them to have found the gasoline cans inside the church because they were using them for heat.
Well, they weren't using that for heat, but they were using it for light. They could use them for light. But these big things, they were from there to here.
Furnaces?
No. They were like a tank that they'd light up, and it would to heat the room up. We had one for the church, one for the dining room, And when we wanted to get warm, that's where we'd go if it was really cold. Because we didn't have individual heating except we had something in our room. And most of us could not, we were told we could not use electrical because our wiring wasn't safe. He had put a special wire in down in the end of the dining area so we could plug in a hair dryer and anything that would bring in and would use a lot of amps, you know, a lot of heat. But that is just laughable.
Well, see, this is why we want to clear up a lot of the. There is even people on this network saying that, you know, like I said, that's one thing we just cleared up. David Koresh tortured and raped children, and that is. And is there anything you want to say to correct that? Because there's people on this network saying that.
Well, it was proven that they're not. It's not true. It's been proven. Joyce proved it. She went back and gave a report on it.
Okay, who is Joyce? Because a lot of people don't know.
Joyce was the
Child protective?
well, she was in the child protective, but she was also, what was it? The service.
Child protective service?
Yeah, but there was another service connected with it. I can't think of the words.
Well, I'll cut it out. Well, let me ask you another question, because I'll edit this together. What do you see happening with the land at Mount Carmel? What do you envision? Do you want it back the way it was before, or what's your envision on that?
We can never put it back the way it was. We can never build a building the way it was. We could never raise the money to build a building the way it was. It's an impossibility. Why would we build a building that big? We had 150 people to take care of then. We don't have 150 people now. Most of them died in the fire. Oh, there are still 9 in jail. But if the 9 came out and the 5 of us that's here, how many is that? And then the few that's in the other states came back here, we might have about 30, 36.
But what do you envision? What do you want to happen with Mount Carmel?
Right now, I'd like to see the people off that don't belong there. I would like to have a place of my own to live on there, but I do not see that it's an impossibility for me because I do not have the means to do it. And so I have just forgotten about it. I went around looking at trailers and I saw a beautiful one, but shoot, I couldn't even buy the cheapest one they had.
So what the best solution would be for everybody to have their own housing out there and have the
everybody would
community.
have to have their own housing. I had my own house before we built that big building. So did some of the other people. But then it got to where there were so many people coming in, we didn't have a place for them to sleep. We didn't have a place for them to eat. The first thing we built was a place where we could have a kitchen and where we could have a place where all of us could eat. Because when people came in from California and all over, when he asked everyone to come in, we had a lot of people there. We had about 100 people there. And that would fluctuate. Sometimes we'd have more, sometimes we'd have less. But that's why that big building was built, to accommodate everyone that wanted to stay there. As it was, there was 4 people in some of the rooms sleeping on bunks. So, I mean, even though we had a lot of bedrooms.
How would you respond to the people that constantly say, well, they had guns there?
Sure, we had guns. We had guns because we were in the gun business. We had to find a way to keep ourselves above water so we wouldn't sink. We had to have a way to make money so we did not have to sit at a 8-to-5 job. And the solution was brought to us by Henry, who came in and said, why don't you go to the gun shows? And he let us use his
License, gun license?
He let us use his license, and he said, I'll show the boys how to do it. There is a gun show every weekend. Texas has always been gun happy. The lawyer I had told me that he had more guns than we had. He said, are they going to come after me? I said, you never can tell. You better be careful. There's people here that have. That's what they were brought up on. The children that were brought up in Texas, even in David's time, it wasn't crowded the way it is now. Everything is overcrowded. You go into a city and it's so crowded you can't get around. It wasn't like that when I first came here. And it wasn't like that when Vernon was born. He lived out near Tyler. He was out in the country. They went hunting rabbits and things. Sure, they learned how to use guns. But I'm going to tell you something. The West was settled with guns. And this country was built on guns. What do you think happened when men who are our heroes now, they weren't heroes in their day. They were traitors. They went after the English, who was the government. And you know why they won? Because the English would stand in the line and pull the triggers. These men, I read an article, and it said when England found out how many men were shot during a very small period of time, they were astounded. We won the war by being, what do you call it? Not terrorists. Where they
Ambush?
Yeah, but
They ambush them?
what's the name for it? It's
Patriots?
no. They use it now everywhere. When they want to take a place over. Anyway, they weren't formal army. Everybody took their gun and went out and shot somebody else. That wasn't, they wanted to put Washington and all the men that signed the Declaration of Independence, do you know they wanted to put them all in jail? Do you know a lot of them went into bankruptcy because the people that were in charge got after them, tried to make them stop. How do you think they're going to treat people these days? They're going to do the same thing. They're going to, economically, they're going to hit them in many other ways.
Well, I'm trying to touch on all these things that people are talking about lately. Okay, here's another one that people keep saying, and I hear it over and over and over, that y'all were some kind of a cult. Can you respond to that?
Well, do you think the Christians are a cult? Of course they are. They believe in Jesus. One man in charge of a group of millions of people? That's a cult. Now, how do you fight that? You can't. We were not a cult. We were a family. We were small enough to be a family, and we were.
And y'all all got along, black, white.
That's right. Yellow, red. We had every nationality. We had every color in there. And like David said, one morning he came in, he said, I hate blacks. I hate yellows. I hate reds. He said, I hate whites. He said, you are not that at all. You are light. And that's what we are. We carry the light within us because the light was given to us by David, giving us understanding of God. So we're not black, we're not white, we're not yellow, light. And when you talk to us, you don't know who we are. But we know who we are. And so nothing that you do to the flesh can hurt us. Oh, it hurts the flesh, but it doesn't hurt us. Because what we have stored in our brain will take us through eternity. And I wish every one of you had that. But you've got to want it. And you've got to be willing to work toward it. Thank you very much.
Well, wait a minute, I'm not through asking questions.
On to-
Catherine, just be
What's
aware
the
that
next-
this is going to play on Access TV, and there's about 500,000 people hooked up to that.
Okay, what else?
So I want you to come out with it and tell the people, because I'm sick and tired of hearing these people that didn't even know David Koresh, and I didn't know David Koresh, but I want you to tell the people exactly what David Koresh was and the lies. Catherine, tell them, hey, I knew him.
Well, I knew Vernon when he first came. He gave me the first 5-hour study, just for me. And it was before he and Louis was going over to Israel. They were going over to the office we had there, and then he gave us, when he first came in, I should start here. When he first came in 81, Lois and I were the only ones that sat and listened to him. He gave a 5-hour study. And it didn't make sense to me. Because I thought I was a student, a Bible student. But I'll tell you, I found out I knew nothing. Nothing. He would talk about something that was in the scriptures and I had never even heard of it. Well, he found out that most of us was like that. That we had a smattering of Bible no matter how much we had studied. And I'd always been interested in the Bible from the time I was 15. We all had a smattering of, we had gone through, I had been a Baptist, I had been a Catholic, I became a Baptist, I became an Adventist. And I thought, man, these people really know the Bible and carry it with them, I found out they didn't know nothing. Oh, they know the Sabbath, and they know the kingdom, and that's about it. And then I met Brother Roden, and I listened to him. And Brother Hardiff, I studied him. And then Lois, I became very friendly with Lois, and I traveled with her, and I lived with her. And after Lois, Vernon came on the scene. But Vernon knew the scriptures like no one I had ever conversed with. And like I say, that first day he gave Lois and I a 5-hour study. Well, he went away, but he came back, and when he came back to just live there. Because he had heard that Lois was a prophetess, and she was. And she had a message. And her message was the female part of the Godhead. Her message was the female. The Bible says, let us make man in our image, male and female created he them. And if you stop and think of it, the male, the Father in Christ. Where's the female? Do you know where the female is? Well, that was her message, and she brought it to us. And it opens the scriptures like you have never seen. Well, when David came, like I say, he was not a preacher. He had had many experiences. He'd had many times that God had spoken to him and showed him things. But he thought everybody had that experience. But he found out nobody else had. Well, like I say, he gave that 5-hour study to both of us. And then he came and he started to see, he had built a race car when he was 15. He had worked with his grandfather, who had a business where he built homes and built businesses. And he worked for him for years and years. And he could do a man's job. In fact, when he'd go out, when he was at Mount Carmel and he'd go up to Dallas, he was a finisher. He was a man that he could come in and he could do anything, and he could do the most meticulous work. And he was good at his jobs. So he always could get one. And they paid him top money. The problem was when he'd get so much money, he would quit and he'd go out and evangelize. He was a street evangelizer when we met him. He was interested in young people. He hated to see the young people go into drugs and cigarettes and stuff. Well, like I say, the next time he gave me a 5-hour study was before he went to Israel, where he and Lois were going over to Israel to go to the office and doing things there. And it still was hard for me to keep all this, and I could never give it to anybody. I still can't give it to anybody. There is so much in it. I sat 10 years listening to David show what the Bible was saying. He showed us Paul, what Paul was really talking about. People that uphold Paul don't even understand what Paul is saying. If they did, they'd be astounded. As far as David with the people, the children loved David. He'd come in and he'd sit down. He had a big chair that he sat in. And the children always wanted to go up and sit in his lap.
Cathrine, how does it make you feel, though, to see the reports out here that people didn't even know David Koresh, calling him a pedophile, a rapist? How does that make you feel, knowing that's not true? Because this needs to be countered.
Because, you know, what I understand and what I know, when I hear people like that, I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry that they could be so stupid. You know, David told us what stupidity is. David's stupidity is believing many things, but understanding little. A person that talks about something that they do not understand is pitiful. And they deserve your pity, not your rage. The day will come when the rage will take care of them, but not today. You see, we are living in a time where everybody is choosing what they want to be. Everybody is choosing who they will follow. Will they follow God, the God in heaven, or will they follow Satan, the God of the world? Most of them are following God, the God of the world. And he will take anybody under his wing that he can get. He doesn't treat them right. I mean, he doesn't love them and take care of them. He hurts them. He puts many diseases on his own people. But I feel sorry for the people that do not understand. And because they have an opportunity to understand, they will have to suffer the consequences. Now when David comes back, they will still have a time where they can learn the truth. If they continue to turn away from the truth, they will go through the 7 deaths. And one of the deaths, by the way, is like the flood, where people were drowned. And they will want to die. And they will seem like they have died, but they have not died. They're going to be alive and go through the next death. So why should I be upset with people like that? I'm sorry for them. I pity them. That's all.
Okay, another question to explain. Okay, they said, and it's still going on now because I just heard it the other day, that David Koresh said he was Jesus. Now, what's your opinion of that? Is that true or false?
Well, anybody who has studied the scriptures, he never said he was Jesus. I will tell you that right now. He never claimed he was Jesus. But anybody who has studied the Bible at all know that Christ was considered the Lamb. Any true Bible student will say that Christ is the Lamb. Now when you get to Revelation, in Revelation 5, it says, who is able to open the seals? And the answer is nobody in heaven, nobody in earth, and nobody under earth. Nobody who has ever lived or is living in heaven can do it. Nobody. But the book is in the Father's hand. And the book is going to be given to someone who can open it. And the Lamb is the one that is given the book. And people say, oh yeah, that's Jesus up in heaven. That isn't Jesus. But the Lamb is Christ. And the only one I know that can open the seals is David. I've never heard anyone that could take the whole Bible and put it together so it made sense. And everything fits together. It isn't something hanging out here that you say, what happened to that? Well, that doesn't matter. No, the whole thing goes together. Every prophecy that goes with the seals is explained. The whole Bible is explained.
Okay.
And so I personally believe that David is God. Was God, is God, will always be God. Now, if you can't handle that, I feel sorry for you. But that's your problem, it isn't mine.
Okay, is that the consensus of all the surviving Branch Davidians? Or just your opinion?
I can only speak for myself. You'll have to ask them. You know, Ed has already talked about it. Others have already talked about it. But it doesn't matter who believes it, who doesn't. 100 people can believe something, it can be wrong. That doesn't mean anything. I know it. I don't just believe it. I know it.
Anything else for the people, Catherine? Anything to close it out, because I need to close it out.
Well, I've already closed it. You can take that.
All right. Anything else that I can add in there?
I can't.
Any other lies that you've heard that you want to, because I want to make this to...
I have heard so many, and I'll tell you what, I don't remember them because I just put them out of my mind because I know where they come from. They come from Satan, and I'm not interested in Satan.
But as far as you're concerned, the Branch Davidians that were living at Mount Carmel in 1993 were good, decent people.
Let me tell you this. There isn't a person that's walked the earth that isn't wicked. And we were the most wicked people that God chose. Sister White says he scraped the bottom of the barrel when he chose his people. So that doesn't make us very high. Doesn't make us very good. But there will come a day when we will be pure and righteous and good and have the complete mind of God, and there'll be no sin in us because we will have been clean and God will do it. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Any
The only
prediction?
person that's ever walked the earth that wasn't sinful was Christ. And the record is there for you to read. Oh, yes, let me say one more thing. David called himself the sinful Messiah because God, let me go back. When Christ walked the earth, they couldn't stand him because he was perfect, because he was sinless, and he could not get to the people. Even his own men, he couldn't get to them. People hate somebody who is perfect, or even appear perfect. They can't stand him. But when David came to the earth this time, he was not sinful. He was not pure and without sin. He was a sinful Messiah. What he did, he committed sins that God told him to commit. But he was the Messiah nevertheless. I'm getting tired.
Well, that's good.
Hello, folks. This is Jeff Davis with the legendary Jeff Davis Show from Central Texas, USA. And I love Mike Hanson Archives. Peace out, baby.
Stay tuned right here for more classics on this channel here, Hanson Archives. But to fund this station, I'm offering, if you send us $25, we'll send you a signed copy of Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. It was forwarded by Tex Mars that just recently passed away. Also, Alex Jones has a chapter in here. And you know that's good. There's us in our younger days. But on the address that you see, send us $25 and we will send you a signed copy, or give us a call at 830-672-3089 and you can put it on a credit card. We'll send it right out. But that's what we need to help fund this channel, folks. So help us get all the classics uploaded to YouTube. We got hundreds and hundreds of old Alex Jones and Jeff Davis and a bunch of other patriots that we need to upload. About 25-year-old tapes. Hello, folks. This is Mike Hanson here on Mike Hanson Archives on YouTube and here on my Facebook. And we're here at the 25th anniversary of the memorial service here in Waco, Texas, and we got Clive Doyle here. Can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on the 25th anniversary here?
It's
It's all right. Everybody knows you.
it's kind of hard. My daughter just died. My daughter just died.
And that's what I heard. And we didn't put it out on the internet because we were asked not to. This is the first time people out here on my...
A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't know yet.
That was your first daughter died at Mount Carmel, and this was your another daughter.
This is my oldest daughter. It's my youngest that died in the fire. And Karen was coming down had her plane booked. She was coming down for the memorial and ended up dying in a head-on collision. A drunk driver. People up in Pennsylvania saying that it was deliberate, it wasn't an accident. Tried to run a cop off the road first. I guess the cop avoided it. Tried to run down another woman and she avoided it. Kim was third in line. So they say she died instantly, which is at least she didn't suffer too much. But seems like every year there's a few more to go.
Yeah, it's just not many left. Clive, I'm so sorry for all the stuff that's happened to y'all, and hopefully it will get better. But you, like you always say, it's going to be better.
It'll get worse before it gets better.
Well, but once we're gone here, maybe.
Well, you know, KRLD called me this morning. Well, what do you think the government's learned in 25 years? I said nothing, except don't have the press there filming everything.
How are you doing?
There's Desi. Okay, well, we're getting ready to start. Who do you got speaking this year?
Phil Arnold, James Tabor, I believe, Cathrine Lessinger, Mary Winborn wants to say a little
Oh,
bit.
good. Oh, I can't wait to see her.
So there's a lot of people.
All right, well, we're getting started here, folks. I hope y'all can make it here for the 25th anniversary here. And what's the address here? If they can still make it?
701.
701 Jefferson, Waco, Texas. Hope to see you here, folks.
It is the best and most comprehensive book on Bohemian Grove, and it's written by Mike Hanson, my old camera guy.
Mike Hanson Archives.
I gotta get it. Okay, hi Sheila.
How you doing? Hi.
25th anniversary
Yes,
of what
I know,
happened.
sir.
How are you?
Yes, fine,
Right
thank
here.
you.
Tell them to come on down. They still got
Yes,
time. It's
yes,
live.
It's still time.
Yeah.
Okay. Good
And
morning.
what do you think
How are
about
you?
the 25th anniversary, real quick, before we go
Sorry
in?
that it's still 25 years. I'm sorry that it's still taking so long. We want to get home. We want God to come and change all this.
Amen.
We won't have to think about
Absolutely.
people being dead.
Yes.
You know.
And look at all this food you brought.
Yes. Well,
You
thank
got
you.
everything?
Yes,
Well, we
I
still
think
got
so.
time to get here.
Okay.
April 19th,
No, it's just plain bread.
2018.
Okay.
What time is food?
12:30, 1:45, whatever, 1 o'clock. Okay.
All right, come on, park your
Okay.
car and come on in.
All right, then.
All right,
Thank you.
thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye
All right,
now.
folks.
Come on, anybody want to come up here? All right, that's it. All right, who wants to lead it? Let Gene go. Go ahead. Yes, sir. All right. God bless the Republic